Okay, well, the Tiny Tim battery charger is coming apart nice and easy. No real problems yet. Managed to get the carburetor off just fine. Also managed to take off the top casing here with the ammeter inside. I've done a couple of videos that show where these wires go. It's all been sort of rewired at some point, and it doesn't look too bad actually. Looks like most of the wiring will be good to go apart from this off switch. I'm going to change the wires on that. Also change this HT lead, but most of the rest of the wiring seems fine, and the generator works as an electric motor, so it should work as a generator. There shouldn't be any problems there. Alright, we're going to pull the head off in a minute and just carry on. Okay, we've got the cylinder head off, and looks like we're going to have our work cut out for us with this tiny exhaust valve. It's quite bad. I wonder why we ain't got no compression. Interestingly, there's a hole smack dead in the middle of the piston. Pretty sure it's supposed to be there. God knows why. There's no corresponding indentation in the cylinder head, so it's not ingested anything. So yeah, I'd have to assume that that's original. No idea why yet though. We're going to clear it out and see what's what and go from there. Okay, so the engine block and the generator has been cleaned up now. All the parts have been washed down and cleaned up. Quite a bit of original paint, so it's pretty nice. We just flushed out the sump. There was some rather manky oil in there, and yeah, everything else is generally just had a degrease. Yeah, it's not come up too bad at all. All looks pretty good actually. Quite a bit of nice original paint on most of the parts. Counting's a little rough, but still retains some original paint, so it's not too bad. So we're just going to go ahead now and start to put it together before bits of the generator start to lose their magnetism. We don't want that to happen, so we're just going to go ahead now and slot it all back together and start reassembling. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. Actually turns over really nicely. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, we're making good progress on the Tiny Tim generating set. We've put all the generator back together now. The only thing that's got to go on it is the back plate. The points have got to go back on as well first. I've got to put the ammeter back on and reconnect a few wires, and then the generating side of it's done. We just put the barrel back on after lapping in the valves. We've done the best we can with this exhaust valve with the tools that we have. We only have grinding paste. I have no valve seat cutting tools, which is really what we needed. But we've taken off a good amount of metal off of that valve. If I spin the engine over, you'll see just how much more flat that exhaust valve is than the intake valve, which needed next to no grinding at all. This exhaust valve, we've gone pretty far with it, and hopefully we've gone far enough. We should have some sort of seat. Put the connecting rod back in and everything as well. Put the split pin back in. That is literally all that holds it together. There it is. Single bearing crank in the engine block. The other bearing is obviously on the generator side that takes the weight. Yeah, interesting. It's a split crank as well. The counterweight splits. You can just see the opening in it there, and it's keyed as well, so it can't move. We couldn't get that Allen key out, so we decided to leave it be. So we haven't actually had the fan out or anything like that. That's all still as it was. Okay, we've got the Tiny Tim battery charger pretty much all assembled now. All you've really got to put on it is the air filter, the back plate here for the generator, and then all we got to do is a little bit of wiring. I want to shorten this wire that goes to the points, and also we've got to sort out a proper wire for the coil from the regulator as well. This is purely for when we're test running it. We can just pull that off to kill the ignition. So yeah, it's pretty much ready to be fired up now. We've got a nice cracking spark, we've gone all through the carburetor. Interestingly, it would appear that it was run on gas. Didn't actually think that when I picked it up. I thought this was this fuel line here was just the old thick one that probably would have been on it when it was in a tank, but probably not now. Looking at it, it may have just been the gas line. It's certainly been run on gas. You could smell it in the carburetor when I took the float chamber off. A really good smell of gas. And these fittings are perfect to fit on a gas regulating valve. So yeah, I'd say it was definitely run on gas in a previous life. But anyway, it doesn't seem to have affected it at all. It seems pretty good. Basically, we're just going to go ahead now and fire it up, because I'm a little bit anxious to see if it does actually run on petrol, whether anything's been done to this carburetor to make it run on gas. But we've had it apart, all the float is still in there, the needle and seat are in there. It's only got the one adjustment screw on it, yeah, which basically just regulates the amount of fuel. It's got a single hole here in this flange onto the carburetor, and this needle valve just goes straight through that hole, so you can regulate the amount of fuel that comes through. There's no regulating the air, you just regulate the amount of fuel. So yeah, hopefully it's all going to work, because I ain't going to get another one of these carburetors, that's for sure. And I probably ain't going to get any bits for this thing. So hopefully she'll run. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else is together. Got oil in the sump, that's not bad. Yeah. Hopefully we can get it to generate. But I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't, because we're not going to be having it running at full speed, that's for sure. We're not going to have it running at generating speed, because we're obviously not going to have anything to bolt it down to, so we don't want it to get away from us, jumping around all over the damn place. So we're going to have it set to idle. Speaking of the throttle here, that's had some bodging done in the past. Looks like it's been taken apart, and the throttle butterfly has been lost, and they've simply just replaced it by screwing a washer in place of the butterfly, which yeah, may or may not work. So depending on how well it runs with that in place, we may have to see if we can do something different. But yeah, we've got a little bit of compression that really needs to improve when we get it started up, because it's really not good at all. The compression is about 45 psi or something like that, I think it was, so that's really not good at all. So hopefully when we can get it to fire up and run for a couple of seconds, that'll start to improve. Got a little fuel line on there now. When we set up the fuel tank, we're simply just going to take that over the top of the engine, have the fuel tank on this side, probably an Atco torpedo style tank. It'll have a similar sort of paint job to it, which will look okay. Got to sort out this ignition coil as well. I think I've got a slightly smaller one that'll fit on. But anyway, that's about it.